Capoeira is more than a dance, more than a fight. One of Brazil's most successful cultural exports.
Some of the most powerful combat traditions on Earth didn't disappear. They were never recognized in the first place. Across West, Central, and North Africa, entire martial systems evolved for centuries.
Its history is in spear and shield warfare, so it's how warriors used to prepare for battle.
Yet,
Capoeira is often described as more than a dance and more than a fight. It is a living, breathing cultural phenomenon. Originating in Brazil, it has grown to become one of the most celebrated cultural exports of the country, recognized worldwide for its fluidity, rhythm, and spectacle. But while Capoeira receives much attention, it represents only a small glimpse into a far richer tapestry of combat traditions across Africa. Some of the most powerful and sophisticated systems of combat that the world has rarely acknowledged. These traditions did not vanish over time. Rather, many were never formally recognized or documented in the first place. Across West, Central, and North Africa, entire martial systems evolved over centuries, each one finely tuned to the needs, landscapes, and social structures of the communities that practiced them. These were not just methods of self-defense. They were integrated into the social fabric, shaping identity, adulthood, and community cohesion long before the term martial arts existed. Techniques were inscribed in stone, passed down orally, or preserved through ceremonial rites. Yet, despite the profound influence, the world has largely overlooked them, creating a gap in the narrative of martial arts history that is only now beginning to be filled. This video and discussion aim to uncover the reasons these arts were ignored, explore who defined which cultures represented real martial arts, and examine what happens when the missing pieces of the story finally emerge. As we dig deeper, the incomplete picture we were taught in history becomes unmistakably clear. The histories of these African martial systems are complex, layered, and in many ways, revolutionary. Most audiences will not anticipate the revelations contained in these stories. The shadow behind these traditions is not a shadow of absence. It is a shadow of neglect, misunderstanding, and misclassification by those who wrote the global narrative of martial arts history. There is a quiet, almost tangible tension around these systems. The moment one encounters them, it becomes evident that there is a much larger story lying beneath the surface. These arts existed in plain sight, yet remain peripheral in conversations about martial disciplines globally. The more one studies them, the more one senses the weight they carry, not just in skill, but in identity, social cohesion, and historical significance. Most people outside their regions are completely unaware that these traditions exist, which amplifies the tension and mystery. Consider the practices themselves. Dambe fighters in West Africa wrap one hand, like a spear for striking, while the other serves as a shield, a technique developed in the House of Butchers, a guild that combined trade, social structure, and combat practice. In parts of Niger, Togo, and Nigeria, Lutte Traditional wrestlers embody the pride and honor of entire communities, their movements and rituals connecting generations. In Egypt, stick fighting methods can still be seen in ancient carvings dating back to the time of the pharaohs, illustrating a system of disciplined, methodical, and highly organized combat. These arts were never peripheral. They were central to survival, social cohesion, and the rite of passage into adulthood. And yet, despite their depth and cultural importance, these arts were excluded from the global understanding of martial traditions. This naturally provokes the question, how could systems of such sophistication and social integration barely register outside their local regions? Some may find the answer unsettling. The familiar history of martial arts is incomplete. African martial arts, in particular, challenge the long-held narrative that suggests martial traditions were exclusively rooted in Asia. What emerges from studying these arts closely is the realization that the world has long overlooked an entire lineage of combat systems that influence global movement practices, including capoeira itself. These arts were preserved not through written manuals or formal schools, but through memory, mentorship, and ceremony. When colonial observers visited, they searched for familiar hallmarks of organized education, graded belts, and structured competitions. When they did not find them, the arts were dismissed as informal, simple, or even performance. This dismissal was not a reflection of the system's sophistication. It was a reflection of a global perspective shaped by criteria that did not account for oral transmission, ritualized practice, or environmental adaptation. This introduction sets the stage for a journey into lost histories, hidden techniques, and the communities that kept these arts alive. From West African wrestling to Angolan inverted kicks, from Dambe spear hand strikes to Egypt's ceremonial stick fighting, we will uncover a world where martial arts are living, breathing expressions of identity, resilience, and tradition. As we embark on this exploration, one thing becomes clear. The history of martial arts is not only incomplete, it has been filtered, misinterpreted, and in many cases, ignored. The story that follows aims to restore these missing pieces, to recognize their value, and to illuminate the extraordinary depth of African martial arts traditions that the world has overlooked for far too long. Origins of African martial arts. The origins of African martial arts are as ancient as the continent's civilizations themselves. Across vast regions of West, Central, and North Africa, combat systems emerged and evolved over centuries, responding to realities of survival, community protection, and ritualized social practices. Unlike the more familiar narrative of martial arts history, which tend to highlight the codification of fighting systems in Asia, African martial arts were shaped in ways deeply connected to the rhythms of daily life, the structures of society, and the landscapes where they developed. They were never designed for global recognition. They were born out of necessity, identity, and cultural continuity. In West Africa, systems like Dambe exemplify how trade guilds and communal roles influence the development of fighting techniques. Dambe's origins can be traced to the House of Butchers, where physical strength, precision, and timing were essential for both professional and communal tasks. The wrapped fist, known as the spear hand, was not an abstract invention. It was a practical adaptation rooted in repetitive, disciplined labor and combat readiness. The shield hand, held in balance, allowed fighters to control distance, disrupt an opponent's rhythm, and maintain stability during conflict. Over time, these techniques were refined, codified through practice, and transmitted across generations, not in written manuals, but through mentorship, observation, and participation in festivals and competitions. Similarly, Lutte Traditional wrestling in Niger, Togo, and Nigeria evolved as more than just a sport. It became a central social institution. Wrestlers represented the pride of entire communities, and their skill was a measure of maturity, resilience, and social standing. Matches were often intertwined with ceremonies and celebrations, blending the physical with the symbolic. This wrestling system was not intended for export or spectacle. It existed as a living, integrated part of society, reinforcing communal bonds and identity, while teaching young men the discipline and tactics necessary for adulthood. Techniques were not only physical, they were cultural, embodying knowledge of balance, leverage, timing, and strategy that had been honed for generations. Engolo, from southern Angola, presents yet another example of how environment and culture shaped martial arts. Youth practice inverted movements, spinning kicks, and sweeping attacks not for entertainment, but as part of initiation rites and survival training. These movements taught agility, balance, and quick decision-making in uneven terrain, essential skills for navigating rivers, forests, and rural landscapes. The patterns that Engolo practitioners followed influenced parts of the African diaspora, traveling across oceans to inform capoeira in Brazil. Yet, for centuries, these contributions went largely unrecognized outside local contexts. In the Horn of Africa, systems like Astunka in Somalia preserved combat traditions through annual New Year festivals. Weapon use evolved over time, but movement patterns remained consistent, demonstrating a remarkable continuity of knowledge. Similarly, Nuba wrestling in Sudan was integrated into the rhythms of agricultural life, with training periods aligned with seasonal cycles. Every practice session, every festival, and every generational teaching carried forward not just combat skills, but the memory of community, social roles, and the wisdom of elders. A common thread across these traditions is the absence of formal documentation. There were no scrolls, no manuals, no rank-based progression systems. Knowledge was passed directly from elder to youth, from festival to festival, and from generation to generation. This oral, communal method of transmission ensured that techniques were deeply contextual, highly adaptive, and intimately connected to community that cultivated them. But it also meant that to an outsider seeking the hallmarks of formal schools, these arts seemed informal, fragmented, or even non-existent. The sophisticated structure of African martial arts was invisible to those looking through a lens conditioned by written records, standardized schools, or formal grading systems. This historical invisibility is crucial to understanding why these traditions were largely ignored in the broader global narrative. When colonial observers arrived, they brought expectations shaped by Asian martial arts, belt systems, codified manuals, and organized dojos. African systems did not conform. Wrestling was seen as sport, stick fighting as performance, and boxing-like practices as informal brawling. Yet underneath this misclassification lay profound technical sophistication and centuries of cultural embedding. What was labeled informal was, in reality, a sophisticated martial ecosystem intertwined with identity, survival, and social cohesion. Even more striking is the diversity of systems across the continent. Each martial art was shaped by its environment. In the Nuba Mountains of Sudan, wrestling was designed around the rhythms of agricultural life. In Angola, Engolo movements reflected the challenges of uneven terrain and natural obstacles. In Egypt, Tahtib stick fighting techniques, preserved in Old Kingdom carvings, reflected military preparation and ceremonial expertise. Across each region, the physical techniques were inseparable from social, cultural, and spiritual frameworks. The movements, rituals, and practices were not arbitrary. They were deliberately developed to address the needs of the communities in which they lived. By tracing the origins of these arts, we also trace a map of African social structures, survival strategies, and cultural continuity. These martial systems were not relics. They were active, evolving practices deeply tied to the lives of their practitioners. And although they did not travel across continents in the way Asian martial arts later did, their influence eventually reached far beyond Africa, leaving an indelible mark on global practices, most notably in the African diaspora. Understanding these origins challenges conventional narratives. It asks us to recognize that martial arts history is not solely defined by Asia or by codified systems. Africa's martial traditions were never simple, never rudimentary. They were adaptive, sophisticated, and deeply woven into the fabric of community life. And the moment we begin to see them as they were practiced, alive within their social and environmental context, the story of martial arts as a global phenomenon becomes richer, more accurate, and far more fascinating. Daily life and environmental influence. To fully understand African martial arts, it is essential to see them not as isolated practices, but as living components of daily life, deeply entwined with the environment, work, and community structures. Unlike the standardized schools and formal training halls that characterize many Asian martial arts, African systems were honed in open spaces, village fields, riverbanks, festival grounds, and communal gathering areas. Here, combat was not a separate activity. It was integrated into the rhythms of everyday life, becoming inseparable from social, economic, and cultural existence. Take Dambe, for example. Its techniques were developed within the House of Butchers, a guild where labor itself required strength, coordination, and timing. Butchers would handle large carcasses, wielding knives and maintaining balance in crowded spaces. Over time, these occupational movements translated directly into combat techniques. The spear hand, wrapped for impact, emerged naturally from repetitive, precise motions, while the shield hand became essential for maintaining balance and creating leverage against opponents. This fusion of labor and combat ensured that Dambe was not merely a martial art. It was an extension of daily survival, preparation for communal defense, and expression of guild identity. Similarly, Lutte Traditional wrestling was deeply embedded in social life. Matches often coincided with festivals, marking seasonal milestones or communal celebrations. Wrestling was a way for young men to prove their maturity, for communities to reinforce social cohesion, and for elders to transmit cultural values and behavioral norms. Every grip, every throw, and every stance was tied to lessons in balance, strategy, and respect. These systems taught more than fighting. They taught how to navigate social structures, resolve conflicts, and participate in community life. Training, therefore, was not confined to a mat or a ring. It occurred in open spaces where everyday life intersected with ritual, festivity, and survival. Engolo in southern Angola presents yet another compelling example of environmental influence. The art developed along rivers, across uneven terrain, and in rural spaces where mobility, agility, and precision were essential for youth engaged in initiation practices. Movements like inverted spins, sweeping kicks, and pivoting attacks were not designed for show. They were functional responses to natural obstacles, teaching young practitioners how to maintain balance, evade, and counter opponents on uneven ground. The local environment was an active participant in training, shaping footwork, timing, and defensive techniques. These movements, preserved and passed through generations, later influenced capoeira in Brazil, demonstrating how African martial arts traveled across continents through cultural migration. In the Nuba Mountains of Sudan, wrestling was closely tied to the rhythms of agriculture and seasonal labor. Festivals became training periods, and the timing of wrestling competitions aligned with periods when work in the fields allowed for collective participation. Here, martial arts were inseparable from the cycles of life. Young men learned endurance, strength, and strategy while remaining grounded in the practical realities of food production and communal responsibility. Similarly, Istunka in Somalia preserved ancient combat traditions through annual New Year festivals, blending celebration with skill transmission. Weapons evolved over centuries, but movement patterns remained constant, illustrating the resilience of oral and communal methods of teaching. These arts were also highly adaptive to local needs. Tahtib, the stick-fighting tradition of ancient Egypt, demonstrates how martial techniques can be designed to complement military readiness, ceremonial life, and social education simultaneously. Techniques depicted in carvings from the Old Kingdom illustrate structured strikes, blocks, and footwork that were practical for warfare, but also performed in public demonstrations for social instruction and ritual reinforcement. Every movement had a purpose, and every purpose was intertwined with the surrounding cultural and environmental context. A striking feature of these systems is the holistic integration of learning. Training was experiential, often occurring alongside labor, ritual, and festival activities. Elders guided you through observation and participation, ensuring continuity without the need for written records or formal curricula. This approach created a robust internal logic. Movements were optimized for local environments, strategies reflected social hierarchies, and training cultivated both mental and physical discipline. Unlike martial systems designed for global export, African martial arts evolved organically, ensuring their survival through relevance rather than standardization. This integration also explains why these arts often remain invisible to outsiders. To an observer looking for organized schools, graded belts, or written manuals, the systems seem informal or incomplete, yet their sophistication was undeniable to those who lived within them. Every festival, every labor practice, and every ritual was a layer of instruction, creating a living classroom where knowledge was continuously applied, tested, and refined. The land itself, its rivers, slopes, open fields, and rocky terrain, became both training ground and teacher, forcing adaptations that produce highly functional, context-specific techniques. African martial arts demonstrate a remarkable balance between flexibility and structure. While movements could be adaptive, the underlying principles were highly consistent. Fighters learned to use angles, timing, leverage, and rhythm with precision. Techniques were not random. They were carefully honed to match the challenges of everyday life and constraints of the environment. From striking to grappling to weapon handling, every action had a dual purpose: practical efficiency and social significance. In this way, martial arts were more than fighting. They were a lens through which communities understood the world, negotiated social hierarchies, and preserved collective memory. By viewing these arts through the lens of daily life and environmental influence, we begin to see why African martial arts evolved so differently from their Asian counterparts. They were deeply functional, rooted in specific geographies and social contexts, and transmitted through lived experience rather than written doctrine. This organic development explains both their strength and their historical invisibility. These systems were designed to endure and thrive within communities, not for global recognition. Yet their influence is undeniable, echoing through diaspora practices, global martial arts, and modern interpretations of movement that trace back centuries. Understanding the interplay between environment, daily life, and martial practice is essential to appreciating the depth of African martial arts. These traditions were never isolated. They were living, breathing extensions of culture, landscape, and society. The movements, rituals, and techniques reflect not only combat proficiency, but also the values, priorities, and wisdom of the communities that cultivated them. Modern relevance and legacy. African martial arts are no longer confined to local villages, festival grounds, or mentorship circles. Today, they exist at a crossroads of tradition and modernity, occupying a space where cultural heritage, identity, and global awareness intersect. The resurgence of interest, aided by digital media, research, and diaspora connections, has not only illuminated these systems for the world, but also provided communities with a renewed sense of pride and purpose. The living legacy of these arts demonstrates that martial traditions are not relics frozen in time. They are dynamic, adaptable, and deeply meaningful. Take Dambe, the West African boxing tradition. In its original form, Dambe was tied to the House of Butchers, blending occupational skills with martial training. Today, fighters still wrap their hands in the iconic spear style, maintaining the ritual while also adapting to modern competitions and audiences. Viral videos and online platforms have turned Dambe into a global curiosity, allowing practitioners to showcase precision striking, compact footwork, and ritualized preparation to viewers worldwide. Yet, the core remains unchanged. The art continues to serve its community, teach discipline, and honor tradition. Recognition has expanded its reach, but it has not diluted its authenticity, technical depth, and movement language. When one first observes African martial arts, the movements can appear spontaneous, improvised, or even playful to the untrained eye. Yet beneath every step, spin, strike, and pivot lies profound technical language, an intricate system of body mechanics, strategy, and timing that has been refined over generations. These arts are not loosely assembled. They are precise, deliberate, and highly functional, designed to respond to both environmental and social contexts while conveying meaning beyond simple combat. Take Dambe, for example. On the surface, it can look like chaotic fistfighting. However, the wrapped spear hand is far from random. Fighters train their spear hand against hard surfaces, tree trunks, packed earth, and sand, to develop strength, speed, and compact precision. Each strike is designed to maximize impact while maintaining balance, leveraging hip rotation, weight shifts, and footwork. The shield hand, meanwhile, is not decorative. It controls distance, disrupts the opponent's rhythm, and preserves structural integrity during exchanges. Footwork is designed to corner the opponent, setting up angles that enhance the effectiveness of strikes. Every movement is part of an internal logic, a system embedded in centuries of guild practice and community experience. In Lutte Traditional wrestling, the sophistication is equally remarkable. Before matches, wrestlers perform ritual dances, which many outsiders perceive as ceremonial embellishment. Yet these dances are practical. They allow fighters to assess each other's balance, timing, and psychological state. When the bout begins, wrestlers seamlessly transition between striking, grappling, and evasive movement, demonstrating fluid control over body angles, weight distribution, and leverage. Some regions even allow strikes during wrestling, requiring athletes to constantly adapt between close combat and extended engagement. Grip control, off-balancing, and timing are as critical as they are in globally recognized wrestling traditions, highlighting the depth and subtlety of the system. Engolo introduces a completely different set of complexities. Its inverted movements, sweeping kicks, and spinning attacks are not acrobatics for show. They are tactical tools. Fighters use weight distribution across hands, feet, and shoulders to maintain balance while creating unpredictable angles of attack. The system emphasizes continuous motion, forcing opponents to react under pressure and exploiting gaps in timing and distance. This constant dynamic engagement reflects a highly refined understanding of biomechanics, leveraging circular momentum, body pivots, and the tactical use of gravity to gain advantage. These movements are preserved through ritualized practice, initiation rites, and communal teaching, ensuring both precision and adaptability. Tahtib, the stick fighting tradition of Egypt, reveals another layer of technical sophistication. Carvings from the Old Kingdom illustrate sequences of strikes, blocks, and foot patterns, demonstrating that these systems were organized, methodical, and militarily practical. Techniques were synchronized with rhythm and breath, transforming the stick into an extension of the body. Fighters move with precision, maintaining control over distance, timing, and speed. What appears to outsiders as ceremonial performance is In fact, a living combat system encoded in both movement and ritual. Across these systems, a pattern emerges. African martial arts are multi-layered, combining physical technique, psychological preparation, rhythm, and social signaling. Every movement carries meaning. African martial arts are more than fighting techniques. They are living archives of culture, history, and resilience. From the wrapped fists of Dambe to the spinning sweeps of Engolo, each tradition carries generations of knowledge, community, and identity. Today, as the world begins to recognize their depth, we are reminded that history is broader than the stories we were first told. These arts show us the power of perseverance, the importance of cultural memory, and the beauty of traditions that survive against all odds. So, whether you are a martial artist, a history enthusiast, or simply curious, take a moment to appreciate these hidden treasures. Explore, learn, and share them, because honoring them means keeping their legacy alive for generations to come.